What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am the Owl here with another classic movie review. Furiosa is going to be out in theaters in a couple of weeks, so we're going back and talking about the previous Mad Max films. I've already talked about the original Mad Max and Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. If you haven't seen my reviews for those, check out my channel. It is on a playlist called Mad Max. But we're continuing on talking about the third installment of the Mad Max saga, Beyond Thunderdome. Let's get into it. So, my viewing experience for the Mad Max films have not been that great so far, outside of Fury Road, which we will talk about at a later date. The first two films I have not been loving so much. The first one specifically, I did not like at all. I thought it was really boring. It was very forgettable, and it doesn't really move the needle as far as expanding the world building and the character development. Like it doesn't fully feel like the post-apocalyptic world that we're accustomed to today. But then watching The Road Warrior, I was like, okay, this is a little bit better. This is a lot more entertaining than the first film. It feels a lot more like the post apocalyptic world that we know, but still didn't care that much about the characters. And I thought the world building, while it's a little bit more interesting, there is some stuff about it that I was rather confused about, and I thought was just straight up weird. So getting into Beyond Thunderdome. When it comes to a lot of Mad Max fans, they consider Beyond Thunderdome to be the worst one in the franchise. A lot of people look at this as the black sheep. So, I mean, I was not really that excited to watch this, especially given the people's opinions about this third film, because if I'm not blown away by the first two movies and this third one's the worst one, oh man, I can only imagine how I'm going to feel after watching this. So, you know, I had to sit down and watch this, so I gave it a good college try, and I really don't understand the hate for this movie. This is so weird. Like it's so strange. The movies that people say that are really good, I don't really care for at all. And then when it comes to this one that a lot of people say that is the worst one, I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of like this one. Now, once again, I don't love this movie. I don't think it's great, but I don't know. I think I find stuff a lot more enjoyable in this. At least certain elements I think are a lot more enjoyable in this than they were in the previous two. Like Color Me Shocked. Um, so I found out behind the scenes that George Miller was going through some loss while making this film. One of his main producers, Byron Kennedy, who helped produce the previous two movies, passed away before this movie was made. And so, him and, the casting crew, I guess, were, mourning his loss. And so this third movie that he was making was pretty much therapy for him to help him get through the loss of Byron, which I feel for George Miller. It's like it's horrible to lose somebody close to you, and especially someone who was very important to helping you make these movies. But so actually, he's not the only one to direct this film. He actually got some help. He also directed this film with hold on, I'm about to pull his name up. George O- Ogilvie, Ogilvie. Yeah, sorry, I mispronounced the last name, but so he co-directed it with George, and from what I'm hearing, Byron was, him being producer of the previous two movies, I think helped to give the films like that edgy flavor that the previous two have. So, I think there were some like styles that he helped George Miller create with the first two that isn't quite as apparent in this. Um, I'm just I'm just speculating at this point. There could be some certain other things that he was involved with, but like I definitely could tell this movie felt a lot different than the first two movies. One thing, this movie is PG-13 when the previous two movies are R. So they decided to pull back on the brutal violence. I mean, this movie is still pretty violent. I don't think I would show my little kids this, but like, it's surprising that um, in this installment that they decided to make it PG-13. You know, it did feel kind of odd. You know, but and then another thing. Well, actually, we'll talk about that later with the kid stuff. We'll talk about it later. But I'll start with the positives because I do have some positives with this. I actually liked Mel Gibson as Max. I thought he was pretty solid in this. The first two movies, I didn't really care for him at all. I thought he was such a bland character. He didn't have a lot of personality. In this one, I don't think he did a complete 180 on his character. He still comes off rather dry in a lot of places, but I think there's certain moments that they give to him that help enhance him to make him a little bit more interesting to watch as far as like doubling down on him being the badass and stuff like that and him being the gunslinger and almost like him getting annoyed of the other characters in the movie actually kind of made it fun to watch because with him being the straight man, he seemed to be the most serious out of all these characters in these movies, and it's like they kind of play with that element a little bit more as far as his interaction with the other characters. You could just tell that he's it seems like he's like the smartest person in the room when talking to these other people in this dystopian future, and he's just getting annoyed of having to deal with all these ridiculous crazy antics with everything going on. So in a way, just him like bantering with other people, it seems a little bit more enjoyable here. He doesn't seem to come off as dry in this, so this is something I did appreciate. Now I still wish that they talked more about his wife and his son that he lost. I thought that would play a little. Still, you would think that this would play an element in the story at all, in these movies, but not so much. So I think at this point, it's just we're just so far ahead into the future that we're just like it doesn't really matter anymore. So okay, fine. Actually, one of the biggest surprises to me in this movie is Tina Turner. Like she's actually a character in this. Like I know, of course, everyone knows her as the very famous singer, but I didn't think she could act really well. I haven't seen her in other things, and for the most part, her biggest contribution to films is doing the soundtrack for movies. Um, but she also did a couple of themes for this film. She did the opening. She did the theme for the opening credits and the theme for the end credits. Which when I first heard it, watching it, it kind of took me off guard a little bit because it's kind of odd how it would start a Mad Max movie with a Tina Turner song, which both of the songs are really, really good. But like, it's just you could just tell it's going for a completely different tone this time around, and I actually kind of dig it. But going back to Tina Turner's character, her name is Auntie Entity, and she's the main head of the town that Max goes to, and I actually found her really, really interesting. I thought she did a really decent performance, and I thought her character was very fascinating because, like, this whole thing of like her trying to, keep order in the town that she runs and stuff like that, and you could tell like there's other people in that town that's trying to overthrow her, and you feel like she can't be in complete control because yes, while she helped create the city, as far as the main resources that they use to keep the city going with power and stuff like that, she has to rely on other people to keep the fuel going, and because she's not knowledgeable about that, and so you could tell with the people that are knowledgeable about the fuel, they feel like they want to take over with the town and stuff like that. So I like the power struggle there. Speaking of that, the main person that is controlling the fuel in that town is the master. Which, oh my god, this is one of the more creative like character designs in the Mad Max franchise. The Master Blaster. So a little person is riding on top of a bigger person with like this juggernaut helmet, and he's like the muscle or whatever, and like the master is commanding him to do whatever. Like that's really cool. That's actually pretty creative. Like one of the things I appreciate in this one that I didn't appreciate as much in the Road Warrior is that as far as the costume work and the world building, it feels a lot more realized in this. It feels a lot more clear how the rules and the just how stuff goes in this post-apocalyptic future. Do they give you all the answers in this? No, but they actually take time to explain how stuff works, how their society runs, what fuel do they use, why do they need that fuel, and like the concepts here is ridiculous. Like they power all their tech and their town by using pig feces, which sounds ridiculous and crazy, but it works in the world that they're establishing in this movie. Like, I'm buying it. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, but you know what? It commits to that concept fully, which I didn't feel like they committed in the previous two movies. So I definitely appreciated that. But yeah, I thought, Tina Turner was really good. The Master Blaster was really good as well. I think that I guess you could consider them I guess you consider them the main antagonists between them and Tina Turner, but I thought they were pretty good foils between each other. Um, okay, the Thunderdome. I want to talk about that because that's what the movie's named after. I thought the entire concept of the Thunderdome was really really interesting. Like it's pretty much like a gladiator like arena thing. That's what the city uses to resolve conflicts between people by fighting it out to the death in this giant like dome or whatever, and all the people literally have to climb on top of the dome to watch what's going on, and then the two participants in the Thunderdome have to be strapped to these harnesses and fight that way, and they're being pulled around all across the dome. Like this is really really interesting. I actually like that Thunderdome scene, but yeah, it's like I didn't expect for them to use the Thunderdome only once towards the beginning of the movie. I thought they would become more. It would be more prominent in the film a lot more. Maybe we'll get more than one Thunderdome match, but there was only one. Well, the movie is called Beyond Thunderdome, so Max has to go beyond that. Like, there's other stuff going on outside of that, but I honestly wish that we had more of the Thunderdome in this movie because I think that's one of the most interesting concepts that they made in this Mad Max franchise. Like if they ever did a spin-off with Thunderdome, or like if George Miller decides to introduce another Thunderdome concept in future Mad Max films, I would definitely be down for that. Okay, so let's talk about the kids. Okay, the kids part I think was probably the weirdest choice to use in that, because like that part with the kids, like where the Max gets found by these native children in a forest that chants random things, and they're looking to Max as the chosen one because they think he's a pilot, and then they want him to help power this airplane in the middle of the desert that clearly doesn't work, but they somehow kind of try and make it work towards the end. It's kind of weird. That whole stuff I thought was really, really goofy. That didn't even feel like Mad Max to me. That felt like something out of a Steven Spielberg movie. Like it felt like the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi, even though I like the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi. Or it feels like something from Hook. Like that whole thing felt like more of like this typical adventure Spielberg movie. And like, I mean, that's a cool concept for a separate film, but I don't think that works in a Mad Max movie. That's where I fully felt a complete tonal shift with this film. And I guess I kind of understand now why people didn't dig this as much, because they lead more towards the edgy metal hardcore really violent Mad Max films, and like this, when they bring in the kids in this, I'm like, why? They did not need to do that at all. And then there's this other adult woman native called Savannah, and she was kind of bland. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't really think she was that interesting. I thought they were going to build to like some sort of weird romance between her and Max. I'm glad they didn't do that, because like not only was she not that interesting, but it's just they didn't really spend enough time on that. But there could have been something interesting there, because going back to Max losing his wife and his kid, They could have done something where like he finds a new purpose in life, taking care of these kids and finding another person to love, and like they could have done something interesting with that. But no, and literally, it's right there. It's right there. Like, when's the last time that that Max interacted with all these children and helping them and finding this other woman that could possibly fill the void of losing his real family? Like, that could have been cool, but they don't do that. There's not really that many car chase sequences in here. There's only one big climax car chase with the freaking train. I thought that was a really cool sequence at the end. Though I will admit it does feel kind of tacked on because they're like, oh, this is a Mad Max movie. We got to have a car chase sequence in here, and yeah, the car chase sequence was entertaining. I thought the whole design of the Mad Max train, whatever. I thought that was a really cool sequence. Was it as good as the climactic sequence in the Road Warrior? No, it's not. And I think one of those because this movie's not able to be as violent as the Road Warrior, so they had to pull back on some of the fight choreography and stuff like that, and the kills or whatever. But but yeah, I still thought that was an entertaining sequence. I'm glad we actually had some sort of car chase sequence in here, and I thought it was creative with the train. The guy the was it the gyro captain, the guy that pilots the helicopter in the Road Warrior. He's in this, and honestly, he doesn't play that big of a role in here. I expected him to do more in this, but like he's not in it that much. And I thought the kid that he was with in the beginning, like I thought he was the feral kid from the Road Warrior, but I don't think that he is. And he has an even briefer appearance, so I don't understand the point of that. But but yeah, man. I mean, overall, I thought this movie was pretty okay. Like this movie felt more. This actually felt more like a film than the previous two movies. Like this movie actually tried a little bit harder to have a story and some character development, and actually tried harder to explain the world of Mad Max and the societies and the cultures and their way of using fuel and stuff like that and hierarchies and stuff like that. This feels a lot more expansive than the previous two movies, but it's still I don't think is enough for me to be like, oh, I love this now. Overall so far I'm still not the biggest fan of this Mad Max franchise outside of Fury Road. Like because I said Fury Road is the first Mad Max movie I ever saw, and that set a standard. And I'm sorry, these first three aren't really doing that much for me. So now that George Miller has a lot more creative control and a lot more of a budget, maybe with his future Mad Max films, if he decides to make more, it'll actually feel a lot more epic and a lot more interesting now. These really feel like stepping stones, these first three films. And I'm sorry for people that grew up with these movies that, have a lot of nostalgia for them and like you enjoyed them when you were younger and that was innovative films when they first came out. But, now that we're in the modern era, I just can't help but look at these films and think that they're dated. But at least with Beyond Thunderdome, like I feel like it's heading in the right direction, as far as what we want to see in Mad Max, and like just the cool concept in here feel more realized. Max feels a little bit more of an interesting character. And I just really liked what they were trying to do here. Like it's not perfect, but I really don't understand the hate personally. Like out of the three films so far, this is probably the most entertaining in my opinion. And I know that's a hot take, but that's personally how I feel. So I will give Mad Max 3 Beyond Thunderdome a C plus. Slightly above average, but nothing amazing yet. So that's my thoughts on Beyond Thunderdome. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? How does it compare to the previous Mad Max films? Is this the black sheep of the Mad Max movies, or is this actually your personal favorite? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. Oh, finally, I am so excited because now the next Mad Max film we'll be talking about is Fury Road. I'm so excited to rewatch this and talk about it. So tune in for that review when it comes out. But if you guys enjoyed this review, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified on future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Mad Max fans, and I'll see you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. 2 men enter, 1 man leave.